the Friday edition, of Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, Ann, Disembodied Hands, Squinty, Disembodied Beard, John, and Kiki, who's sulking because I had to close the door to David's office because he's home today. Yeah, one of the challenge with these miniatures that Izzy designed during this period, Laura, is that they tend to have multiple layers of cloth. And so there are several different ways that you can address that, right? But sometimes it's difficult to figure out what layer is what. So you have to really look closely and try to figure out, what is part of the cloak, what isn't, what's a separate piece of cloth, It's especially evident on the Templars, but also some of the elves, so... And color choices, that's what we're talking about today. Quinty, I need a poll. Are you ready and willing? You guys get to choose the color on this one. We'll get to it. We'll put some snow on while the poll runs and all that stuff. Let me get my snow. My snow and my clay shapers to apply the snow. We're going to be using our GW product. Shh, don't tell the ghost of Ed that I'm using a GW product on stream. It's only because Reaper doesn't make texture paste. Alright, so I'm going to get my little flat clay shaper, which is, I find very useful for snow, and I'm going to get my chisel one. So, alright, so my choices for this model, I looked at it this morning, and I was like, it's got to be red, green, blue, or purple. I'm just going to let you guys choose the general color, and then maybe we'll talk a little bit about additional color, or maybe I'll just go for it. So I need a poll on what color to paint Elquin, and it's going to be red, green, blue, or purple. I think I'm going to let you guys choose the general color, and then I'm going to choose the precise color because I want the ability to go unusual. Indigo's not on the board. Though I could possibly use that as a component in a blue or purple color scheme, but we'll see. So yeah, what general color? Give me a general color, folks, for Elquin. And then we will, we're going to do exactly what I tell you guys to do all the time, which is start with one color, then figure out where you're going to go from there. Oh, and there's a mold line there I totally did not get. I forgot there are mold lines on these things. Because Metal Masters and stuff like that, I assume. So we're seeing a little bit more moldy lining. Luckily, on the Bones USA, it's so easy to remove mold lines. So, alright, I'm going to remove mold lines first. I lied. I'm not going to do snow. I'm going to remove mold lines because that's annoying me. I'm so spoiled now with the 3D prints not having mold lines that I completely forgot that this one probably would. There we go. Yep, that's one of the things you can do, Laura, when you have two different layers of cloth, is you can choose a contrasting color. I often go neutral with these things, but it depends. Depends on the overall color scheme and where you're repeating colors and where you're not, and all that kind of thing. So we got a little bit of chunkiness on the bottom of this cape. That's all right. We're going to paint this area black or walnut or something anyway, but I just want to get it more or less smooth. And then you can pretty much follow that line around to see where it goes over the boot and everything like this. So we're just going to use a little, and my knife is not very sharp. It's just sharp enough to kind of peel off little tiny bits of the mold line. You don't want it so dull that it can't take off a clean slice, but you don't want it super sharp either, or you're going to gouge your mini, unless you have really fine control. Vote in the poll, vote in the poll. Vote in the poll, everybody. Tell me what color you want me to paint this model. Once I have a general suggestion, then I'll discuss different options and why or why not I might choose them. We get a lot more options if we don't choose red. Red is, it's interesting to me, you know, because if you think about it, when you think of red, you really only think of like fairly saturated reds. Like, whereas blue, you can think of, you know, gray blues or you know, a different, like muted blues are still blue to us, but a muted red tends to turn like pink or red brown or something like that. Got a little bit, that's the only problem with this base type, got a little bit of shaving to do of the mold line. There we go. Working our way all the way around the model. And that's actually the good thing about a traditional mold line is you can just follow it around the model and you know where it is. There we go. Purple wins. All right. Interesting. Now I have to think about that. But luckily, oh, we've got another mold line on this, or a bit of flashing on the cape. But luckily, I have time while I put snow in the other model to think about what purple I might want to use on Elquin. And also what like other colors I might want to use. Yeah, this little... This is where the mold line is gouged in, and it's really like you're scraping away a lot of material when you try to clean up the mold line. That's where I will often use green stuff to get rid of that mold line on a smooth surface. So we may have to, there's a, I'll show you guys, those of you who have the model probably already have seen it. This ugly bugger right here. I took most of it off, but you can still see there's an edge. It's because it's concave that my tool isn't working real well for it. I can try to use a file, a rounded file for it, but files aren't great on Bones USA. I'll still try and see what I can do. But green stuff is, for me, the way I would usually deal with something like that. So let's use the actual round file. And this is another one that requires green stuff. This on the inside, see it? Comes right in here. This is almost impossible to take out without, I mean, just puttying over it. This one at least I can get to and try to take it down with a little bit of pressure. But the other one is really a beast. Yeah. And this is the problem, is it's going to leave a little bit of texture when I do the file. Yeah, I think we're going to be doing some green stuff on Elquin, guys. Pretty sure we will. Well, that's good we get a stream, and I've got more mold lines on this. Ah! Oh! This is my... See, I'm spoiled. I'm spoiled by the 3D print stuff that doesn't have mold lines. I've stopped. I should have checked this morning before stream, but instead we have evil mold lines everywhere I look. Ah! Anyway. We'll deal with some green stuff. But first, I am going to just kind of let my brain like think about what kind of purples I would like to do on Elquin while we work. I don't set out choosing a red purple or blue purple. I just kind of like look at what I've got in my area here and what I might be able to do with it. The purples I have are fairly standard. And I'll have to see. I'll probably grab a few options as we move forward. See, and before I even asked myself red or blue purple, yeah, before I even ask myself red, blue, purple, or blue, purple daffodil, I would actually ask myself light, dark, or mid. Like, and I talked about this, actually on my new paint along that I put up, the Moonlight Minis one. But when you are, like, when I'm designing color scheme, I'm not looking at it as so much as do I want red here is do I want dark red or light red here or mid red here, right? All right, I'm gonna stir up my goop a little bit here. Snow goop, snow goop. I did put extra water in it to make sure that, since I was leaving it open for a while there, to make sure it stayed good. It's quite thick down on the bottom though. There we go. All right. And when you've got a bunch of it, it's very easy on the thing. Just dip it in the water and use a Kleenex or a paper towel to wipe it off, and your clay shaper's nice and clean again. Yeah, I have to figure out where I stuffed it, Julie. It's around here somewhere. I haven't even gotten rid of all my Reapercons, or like unpacked all my Reapercon stuff from last year. That's how busy it gets when I'm home. All right, so we've got kind of a terrace of little rocks here. Oh, sweet, rock. That's great. Yeah, you can, if you haven't gone to my YouTube, if you are new to the hobby, since you said your first 3 minis, I assume you are, my YouTube has a series called Foundations of Mini Painting that talks about all the basic techniques. Basic and intermediate techniques. So when I'm using my big flat one, it's a little harder to get snow spots on those little rocks. But that's what this tool is good for, with the long tapery butt. That's gonna be easier to grab bits of snow and make them go onto the areas I want. Yeah. But yeah, congrats on painting your first 3 minis. D&D is what brings a lot of us here. A lot of people start painting minis with D&D. So yeah, what this particular snow paste is good for is really the snow that's fallen and is starting to melt off. I really feel like this is really good at patchy snow. You could load it on and make it like a smooth covering snowbank as well, because it is sculptable. If you want it to be really smooth, then I would add a little water to it like I did, because it tends to self-level a little bit then. It can be titchy to put on really small areas like I'm doing. Just got to kind of get it to dot in there. And if you want, you can fill it all the way up against the edges of those and just blend them together. There, a little bit like that. That looks nice. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've got 2 boxes over there that it's probably in there, and it's just like it fell to the bottom, and I haven't been able to find it. But it'll take like actually committing to unpacking. So down in this crevice here, it's a gap, but I can totally fill that with snow. So we can take a big blob. I think I'm going to grab my other tool with the less fine tip. And I'm going to grab a glob of snow, a big blob of it, like that. Now we're going to stick it down in there. Look. I'm going to pop it down and just like get it falling all in there and filling in that area. It will kind of evaporate as it goes. But snow tends to stick to cracks and crevices, so it's very much feasible that it would do this sort of thing. enables us, and I'll probably continue my snowbank all the way down here. Get another big scoop of it. Big scoop. It's almost too big. Sometimes it is too much. There. Boop. You just blob it on, and then you pat it down into a shape. You can glob it over and under and around. And using the edges of the thin edges of this particular tool comes in handy for this. So you see we can just do a big snowbank. That's really cool. So yeah, you can totally do, I think I'm going to just extend the snow in the front here. Big smooth snowbanks are very possible with this stuff. Boom. And if we need to use a finger to kind of dab it off, we can. If I've got a little bit too much on there, I can clean off my tool and edge it away from the places I want it and push it. Just push it out of the way. Get away from that rock. Now, you can see a little bit of texture here. Oh, at least you can if I get in focus. 1 second. Okay. So there is some texture that formed here after I laid the snow down. So if I want to get it to smooth out again, I probably would put another thin layer over it and let it calm down. This looks more like crumbly snow or snow that's like kind of melted and frozen again. You can also put like a layer of, it will yellow, and this is up to you, a layer of like gloss sealer or some sort of filler. I would have used white glue back in the day if you just used a thin layer of it. You'd have to paint over, because white glue yellows, you'd have to paint over it after that. But that's not a bad deal. It's not a deal breaker by any stretch of the imagination. There is no perfect snow solution out there. There's lots of different options. They all have weaknesses and strengths. I like this one because it allows me to create a very natural effect, even if I have to go back and smooth it afterwards. So you got some nice snow coming on in there. I'm going to put another layer. See, though, that when I did use it to fill this gap, it did stay. Like, it really didn't shrink very much. So if I take this and kind of put it over the top, it is a little chunky, so it's not surprising that it settles that way. But what I might do is take my mixing brush with a bit of water on it and kind of melt it down with some extra water. Try to encourage it to fill the gaps in the previous layer. But I really feel like this particular product just isn't gonna, there's like a limit as to how smooth it can end up. So with a little bit of water and smoothing, I can encourage it to be smoother, but it's still going to have a little texture. It's just the nature of the beast on this one. Like I said, every snow solution has different pluses and minuses. I'm doing the GW, Jimmy. I really like the GW one for patchy snow. I also like that it stays white. Like it's just when you put it on, you get pretty nice coverage, even if it does get a little bit. But I mean, even when it gets a little chunky like this, it still looks like it's just melting snow, right? It's still a convincing snow effect. So I feel like this one is one of the easier ones to manipulate, and certainly for doing like little areas, like these little rocks, like it's better than anything else I've tried. Yeah. Like if you want like a really smooth, like kind of melting slush, like kind of snow, those the little thermoplastic micro balloons that became popular, gosh, 15 years ago. But those are like toxic to use and very bad to breathe and not great for the environment. So I've totally gone away from using that sort of thing. But yeah. And I've used the Woodland Scenics. Woodland Scenics flock is what a lot of people pick up, and it definitely is hard to use and not great, but it's workable if you build it up in layers. Oh, thanks for the gift subs there, Jimmy. Painting sand white. Yeah, totally. Especially if you use a fine sand. Yep. Because there's some super fine sands, like the ones they used to put in the cigarette, the smoking things outside, like the really, really fine sand. You can get that stuff, and if you glue and paint that, yeah, it can make convincing snow. Agreed. If you use this GW stuff, Leafy, it's really not hard. Like this stuff, I would recommend getting like these clay shapers, but they're good for like sculpting if you need to do some sculpting or filling anyway. The extra firm ones are the ones I use. That's the black rubber. If you get a set of them, I use the taper one all the time for actual sculpting, and I use these guys for basing. The paddle one, the chisel paddle, and this angle chisel for pushing basic material around. The silicone is really good for that. Yeah, I feel like Army Painter is just relabeled Woodland Scenics. I got that impression. I may be wrong. I'm going to put a bunch of snow around her feet now. So we're going to reach for big globs now. We're just going to kind of lay it in there. And then we're going to pat it down and push it around. Yep, for sure. Yeah, it's good for miniature sculpting. I use the taper point, the regular cone-shaped one, all the time for smoothing green stuff and other sculpting putties. Because the silicone is nice because you can just wipe it off, rinse it off, wipe it off. It's pretty impervious to this stuff. So I'm going to push that snow around her boots. Kind of just shove it out the back a little bit there. It's quite the poofy snow. I'm going to kind of pull it onto my original patch that I did here so I can kind of combine them. I did put little rocks in here, so one thing I can do is to dig out some of those little rocks if I can. Thank you. Yeah, it's been a long time. Like, because it took me a while, I had to 3D print the brazier, and we sculpted the base, and we did all that. But I think she's looking really good. I'll be very proud. I'll take a picture of her probably for my Instagram. I always forget to do stuff for Insta, but I like her. I like how she turned out. All right, a little bit of snow around the other side. Glad you like it, Jimmy. I'm very happy with it also. All right. If you see places where your snowflock has kind of created a gap, you can absolutely put more snowflock over the top to correct that. Yeah, the water effect stuff is what I use with Woodland Scenics. Yeah, not connected. I don't know. I'd have to take a closer look at it. If they're not directly connected, I would wonder if they use the same manufacturer. Because a lot of times companies will do that. They'll just relicense a product with another company's name. I just remember seeing the snowflock and thinking that it was pretty much the same thing as Woodland Scenics used. So I'm going back and I'm kind of smoothing this out. I've got a little bit of gappiness in my snow in places. Get that nice pad of snow all around her. But yeah, I wonder if they use the same like company that creates that stuff. I have no idea. I don't know if Woodland Scenics has their own factory for that stuff or if they themselves are buying and relabeling. No idea. You usually don't know if there's a rebrand, by the way. As a customer, it's very, like, that information is not usually something that's shared. There we go. We got to sneak that in there. And now I can work on connecting these up. I'll put a little bit of extra flock down here. Because, like, it's like brushes. Most places don't make their own brushes. They contact an existing brand and see if that brand will rebrand their barrels for the company. Usually only really big companies will do that. And usually have to order a lot to do it, but it's a thing. All right, so we've got that, and we've got it. You kept it under the cloak. I've kept it from sticking to the bottom of the cloak, but though I absolutely can do. I tend to not like doing the basing stuff sticking to the cloak. I tend not to like that effect. I feel like with a lot of miniatures basing materials that it's very out of scale and way too clumpy. I would much rather take some white and stipple it on really heavily on the edge to suggest that. I think it's a more natural look. Right, I thought they did their own stuff, Shadow Raven, so I thought it was much more likely given their longevity in the railroading hobby and in hobby in general, that Woodland Scenics made their own stuff and just like licensed it out to other people. Yeah, easy to overdo washes. Yeah. So washes are. Let me go and see what you had to say there, Rock. How many washes is too many? Okay, so the dealio, and if you go watch my washes video, I talk about this, Rock, is that when you put a wash over the surface, it makes the whole surface dirty, right? That's the problem with washes, is there are very few that will not, like, any wash, I would go so far as to say any wash is going to slightly color the surface that you put over it, the whole thing, right? So there are a lot of people, myself included, that really don't like that effect. Like, what I found as a beginning to intermediate painter, once I started becoming better and trying to embrace like other techniques, I found that the washes did not save me time. They save you time if you're doing a base coat wash and then just a super quick highlight and throwing it on the table, which for D&D, absolutely fair. For when you're doing miniatures wargaming, it's totally fair. Do it. By all means, it will save you and it will save your sanity. But if you're painting an individual like characters or leader models, or you're trying to learn new techniques or become like get a really clean effect like I've got, then the washes work against you, because although it can outline details and make them easier to see, you then have to cover up. You have to rebase. If you don't want that dirty look, you have to cover up most of the wash and just leave it in the cracks anyway. At that point, what I tend to do is I don't do the wash. I just like start with a slightly darker color and I highlight up to create contrast, like I did on the back of this cape. I'm more likely to paint shadows into place than to use a wash. Like I'll essentially layering in shadows is just painting with your wash. So instead of putting the wash everywhere, you're painting the shadows in where you want them. Now, when you're a beginner, you don't always know where you want them, and that's why washes are really useful. But once you get, after some time, once you start playing around and you start understanding where the shadows should be on the model, then it's worthwhile trying to layer. So like on her armor, I didn't do a wash. This is all these shadows are just painted on. And as your brush control grows, you'll get better able to do that kind of thing. So that's the other thing about washes. They really aren't going to help your brush control because you're just pretty much putting it over everything, right? Yeah, and some mini painters come in and they try washes and they really hate the look. And I tell those people, then don't use them. Learn to layer. Like, it's not harder per se. It just involves you thinking about where you want, like actually putting the paint just in the crevices. So if you took the wash, for example, and you just put little bits of wash in each of the crevices in this armor, that's layering. Like, that's perfect. Like, you're not putting it over the whole thing, so you're still going to have the bright spots at the top, and you aren't going to have to go over the top to reclaim that color. So it's up to you. There are people who use washes who do great work, and I still use them on occasion if I want that kind of effect of like taking the color and just like going over the entire surface and bringing out stuff. Let's see, do I have anything that I've done a wash on? Not really. I did an overall like really dark wash on the base here. You can barely see. A lot of these colors were dark already, so the wash didn't really bring much out, although it did fill in a lot of stuff between the vegetation here. But then I'll go back in, and I know I'm going to have to cover over all of this stuff, except leaving the wash in some of the deep areas. But I'm going to have to go over the top and rebase and rehighlight all these plants and the stones and everything, right? So I did a little example from my Patreon, which is going to go up on the YouTube, which is doing fast faces, and I did use a wash on this figure. And it's a very lightweight wash, but you can see it outlining the muscles and the face. So this was a very fast technique, but I would only do this on like army models. I otherwise, these days obviously I can do better, so I do layering, which tends to look crisper and cleaner and all that. Because when it comes down to it, washes are kind of uncontrolled, right? You're at the mercy of where they decide to go. And you can guide them, but sometimes they're just like, they're a little bit like haphazard. Because you don't really need to control them very much if you're putting one over the whole model. Which is why they're so good for beginners. So the bottom line is, most advanced painters, I would go out on a limb and say most advanced painters don't use washes, except maybe if they're doing, like, if I'm doing terrain, I absolutely will use washes. Because I don't care if my terrain looks a little bit dirtied. But for figures, especially for anything that I'm doing to a competition level, I'm going to paint in all my shadows instead of doing a wash over the entire thing. If I would have done a wash over this entire dragon, I would never be able to get this beautiful aqua color back. Because if I would have put that indigo wash over the whole thing, the only way I would have been able to do it would be to go through and underpaint white wherever I needed that beautiful clear aqua. So if you're using white primer because you're doing a very light and you want a very pretty, light, intense color that's fairly saturated, the washes are of limited use, in my opinion. But again, your mileage may vary. Everybody's journey is different. Everybody hates to hear that, but it's true. I need to put a little more snow out here, I think. Oop. But yeah, I do have I have a video on making your own washes on my YouTube, and I also have an applying washes video. But yeah, it's a technique that's good. You need to, in my opinion, it is a foundation. Like you need to do washes because it helps you understand how thin paint acts. One of the ways it can act. But at the same time, it's not necessary to paint with it. It's something that I think everybody should know how to do and play with. But it's also something that on a high-grade miniature I would never use. If that makes sense. So that is why you'll hear a lot of more advanced miniature painters dissing washes. But I do not diss them because I believe that it's something that, as a beginner, you need to learn how to do them, and they're useful. They're a stepping stone. They're a stepping stone on the way to other techniques. They're really, if you think about it, a wash is usually the first technique using thinned paint that any painter learns. And using washes is, is a step on the way to learning what glazes look like, because washes and glazes have stuff in common, and you apply them sometimes very similarly. But yeah, I did a lot of washes when I was doing Warhammer, when I was doing armies. I still, on my termagants, for my new Tyranids, I'm using a wash. It's thinned down. It's actually contrast paint, but I changed it. Decided to make this mostly just a solid. There we go. All right. Looking okay. Got to get more of that back here. Yeah, there's a place for them. Of course there is. There's a place for every technique. And it all depends on your goals. If you're painting for D&D, washes are your friend. Do it. It's only if you decide that you want, like, if you get dissatisfied with washes, if you want a cleaner look, if you want your stuff to look more like numerous high-end painters stuff, that's when I'd say, okay, well then it's time to put aside the washes and learn to layer. But that's certainly a progressive thing. Yeah, it's a tool. Right, exactly. Because painting goals are different. And nobody should put pressure on you to, like, constantly be striving to improve your painting unless you want to, right? There were plenty of people, this took me a long time to learn, because there are people who came to Paint Club, and they would always be doing just the base coat and wash and a little bit of a highlight, and their work was kind of messy. But that's all they wanted. Like, they wanted to be happy with the models they were producing for their tabletop. And that's, like, absolutely cool. Like, not everybody has to set out to be a great mini painter. Now, if you like to learn new things, then it's worth picking up all those more advanced techniques. But whether you actually use them is up to you. And it doesn't matter. Now, by the same token, though, if you're looking to, like, go to a convention and show your work to, like, a high-end painter you admire and all you're doing is washing, don't expect them to be over the moon about it. Like, I've seen plenty of that. I've seen plenty of that. But usually these days, if I get that, I'm like, that's really cool. And then I'm like, you did really well on this. And then I'm like, do you want to know what you should do to improve? If you want to improve, and people are like, nope, I'm happy. I'm like, all right, I'm happy then too. But some painters are not going to be as, like, nuanced as I am. How about that? They're just going to say, oh, you shouldn't be doing washes, right? You should always take that with a grain of salt. Yeah, it's your hobby. Do what you wanna. So what I'm learning about this stuff, by the way, is that it's not so stick-to-itive that I can't actually take it off or scrape it off or push it off, especially if I apply a little water. So what that tells me is that this stuff is not as strong as you might think. So I might put a sealer over it to hold it in place if you're planning any amount of wear. This will be fine because it's going into the gallery, but if, like, I was going to ship it or something, I think I'd reinforce it. Just grabbing little bits of snow now and trying to get them on the places I want them on. And also keep in mind that, different people are going to like your style or not like your style as you show people your work, and it's not a personal thing. It's like somebody may not like washes. Other people may not like, for example, non-metallic metals or metallics, right? And it's not about you or your paint job on the model. It's just that person's preferences. And that's okay. Not everybody has to like everything. It can be difficult getting the snow onto these little projections. Just be patient and go slow. But yeah, there are other techniques out there. There are a bunch of techniques out there. When it comes down to it, though, being able to do a smooth base coat, knowing how to do a wash when appropriate, and then learning layering, sets you up for success right there. There we go. Now actually I need a little bit of snow over here too. This is cool though. This is coming, we're expanding our snow. I probably need to put some snow up here since I filled up this crevice. I need to fill up more of this. And when I see more of the texture sticky up in the snow, I can always brush over it with some water to smooth it. But yeah, this stuff is always going to dry with a little bit of a texture. That's what I'm learning from this experience. There we go. That looks nice. But yeah, and there are as many different opinions about this stuff as there are painters. So plenty of people will disagree with me. I was just on my YouTube the other day and I noticed that some people had downvoted one of my videos and I was like, yay, I've hit the big time. I'm big enough on the internet now that people will actually disagree with me. I thought it was funny. They always say that until you have a 1-star review, you're not a real writer. I'm taking the YouTube videos to be about the same. Till I have people disagreeing with me on YouTube, I'm not a real YouTuber. The people that disagree with me are wrong. At least on the stream. This is your own private universe, Quindy. It's Quindy's Capsule Universe. That's where we were at. So this is really cool. Look at the front. The composition is looking pretty cool. Oh, I need to get this little ledge right here. This is fun. Like, this kind of basing stuff, guys, it's just fun. You're creating this illusion. And sure, it's like, it goes slow and it's like painstaking work, but it's also super fun just to watch it develop. This kind of like persnickety finishing touch stuff is the stuff I live on. Like, it's where my happy place is. But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting some more YouTube videos out this month. I'm kind of thinking I'm going to have to just take one day and shoot as many as I can. And that way I can kind of just have them and maybe find more little time to put out new ones every month. There. Yeah, now I like that composition. So you can see the white on both sides going up. You can clearly see the griffin's head. Should I put a little snow on his little beak? I feel like I should put just a little divot of snow on his little beak. Because cute, right? I told my CrossFit coach last night, I'm like, Andrew, whenever you can make the workout more cute, you should. Because apparently there's a function on our rowing machines that they use for kids. That's a fish game. So like when you row, it usually shows you on the screen, like, you know, the power that you're rowing at. It makes like a little wave. So apparently for kids, there's a fish game where the fishes are up here and you have to make them go in the wave. So you have to pull the thing with enough force, the rowing arm with enough force that you get the fish. I'm like, why are we not doing this for adults? Like, seriously, why are adults not getting this cute? Dang it. Yeah, yeah. Green stuff and snow. Yeah. Hi there, Kiki. Do you want to come up and say hello to the stream today? Yeah, because you're not able to go near Daddy. No, you don't want to come say hello. Aw, Geekster. Geekster. We're still early in the stream. Come on. Bup, 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 bup. No, she's sulking. She wants to get to Daddy, and his door is closed because he doesn't want to get bugged by my stream. Yeah, little Ba. Bup, bup, bup. Where are you? There you are! Yay! Do you want to come up? Yay! We get a Kiki! We get a Kiki! It's a visitation from Her Majesty! The Kiki Hound! Hello! Hello, silly girl. Yeah! Oh, you get stuff in your ear. Oh no, not stuff in your ear. Not stuff in your ear. You're a good girl. Yay, hugs. Good girl. Good girl, Kiki. Boop. Oh, the kisses. All right. She's like, I'm sulking. You shut me off from my dad. The immature seniors are the fun people. You better bet when I'm 80, I'm still going to be having fun. Alrighty. Let's see here. Doop. Alright, let's see here. Just a little dab. Boop, 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 boop. Oh, come on. Commit! Commit! My snow is not wanting to commit. It has commitment issues. Alright, there we go. Now we got a blob of snow. Now let's see if we can make it look good. Doo-doo-doo-doo. Hee hee. I like it. You go, Twisted Oma. Alright, and I'm going to bring this down a little bit here. I want to keep it a little poofy, because it would be kind of poofy. Yay! Snow on the nose! A snow nose for our griffin. Awesome. I love it. Snowy beak. Yes, the snow boop added cute points. Exactly. Whenever you can add cute points, you should. This is my philosophy. All right, I need to get a little bit more snow back here, and then I think we've been snowed enough. Then I should get some green stuff, and or I just don't want to spend a lot of time trying to dig for that tool, Julie. I should have dug for it before, but I didn't, so I may be forced to use green stuff on Elquin. But after that, I should definitely dig up that tool. Maybe I'll do a quick search and see if I can find it. And if I can't find it, it's the green stuff. Then I've got to break down all these Reapercon boxes. Yeah, I've definitely got some chunkies on the snow on this side. So I feel like putting a bit more down and then grabbing my basing brush and smoothing it in with some water would be good. So using a brush. Make sure your brush is wet already. And we'll brush it over the top there. We're expecting a very rainy weekend here. There, that's a bit, so now when you see it, you can see that this is a bit smoother. Because I use the brush to smooth it down. You don't want a lot of water. Oh, sorry about the early meeting, Crowley. It was good to have you with us, though. Just taking my brush and smoothing more of this in. There we go. I feel like that's pretty good. While it's still wet, you can smooth it. There we go. Alrighty. Back up. Good. I could probably pop some snow into that crevice there. Otherwise, I think everything looks good. And yeah, we could do some icicles, but icicles here and icicles here. Those will take some time, and I think I want to prep for those. It's going to take some more snow and dab it down into this crevice. Yeah, it's fiddly work, but it's fun. I like how it ends up giving a sense of place to the model, though, now. Like, you know that it's cold and the temperature is cold, but you've got that fire there, too. I like it. It's good stuff. Just a little bit more. Boop. Now I'm just using my brush, my damp brush, to lift the stuff out of the pot. It is kind of risky. You definitely want that layer of water on your brush. You don't want this stuff sticking in it. There. Yeah, I don't do them very often, but I definitely wanted this lady to be that kind of model when we started her. Alrighty, I'm gonna put some drops of water into my material. Just gonna get my big brush and plop a few in there. Just because it's gonna help keep this stuff from drying out. I did have a bottle of this basing stuff dry out. My mud one dried out. Still haven't replaced it. So you don't want to put too much in there, but you do want to get a little bit. It'll just help make up for the evaporation that happened when we sat here for, you know, half the stream and more than half the stream and kept this pot open. Make sure also that you close them. These are very, very, they have a tendency to kind of stay open, or a part of them have open, so make sure you've pressed them down and that you've got a good seal. You can also turn them upside down. This is better with normal paint pots and less so with this stuff that just tends to sit at the top. But with a normal paint pot, it's just going to create a fluid seal around this lower part, and it's going to keep your paint good for longer. So that is my snow foray for the day. And I think I'm going to do just a little bit of chunky white on the bottom of her cape. And we're going to do a little bit more cleanup on Elquin, and we're going to grab green stuff. Or I'm going to try to find that tool really quick. One or the other or both. I'll check real close and make sure it's not sitting in my travel case. Oh, it might be. It might be. It might be in my travel case. It is in my travel case. Da-da-da! Look at that, Julie. I found it. I was like, where would I put that thing? Well, that would explain why I didn't find it in my box. In either box. Well, now we'll be able to play with the tool here. It's large, so we're definitely going to have to use it for the big. I'm going to have to see if it'll fit in that one space, but we'll give it a try. We'll give it a try, and if there's an area that we can't reach, we're going to do green stuff. But yeah, I can see how this is a sharpened, curvy tool. It'll probably work really well on the big cape area. All right. Excellent. So we're going to put Caerindra off to the side so she can dry. I still need to do some touch up on her. Oh yeah, that's right. We were going to do the snow cape. Let's do that. Let's do the snow cape. Snow cape, and actually I'll grab some dark gray and do some touch up. When I glued the brazier down, it left some shiny super glue spots. So it is a handmade tool from Julie meant to take out concave mold lines. So it may be, but it is, yeah. Well, or I can just do a little bit and just get the feel for it. Like I can feel how this is working. I'm pretty good with tools at this point. Let's see. Yeah, this works really well out here. When you've got enough room for it, it totally works. Like, that took that right out, guys. Julie's a genius, everybody. Just so you all know. That took that mold line right out. Like, I sliced it right up. See this? That kind of shiny part? But it's not a line anymore. And where there's a little bit of an overlap, I can... A little bit scrapey. So there we go. There we go. See, in here though, I think this might be a little too deep. I think this line might be too buried. Yes, this is made by Julie. And it successfully excised our mold line on this side. This is a narrow fold though, and I don't think it's going to be able to get down there. We'll see. We can definitely get more of this up here. Yeah, it's just a little tiny bit. Leaves the side. Little tiny bit, it does not want to get down in there. Hey, Arrowwiz, thank you for the resub. 50 months. Autocorrect gets us all. Yep. Small wood carving V-tools for gouges. All right. Yeah. That makes sense. Wood and plastic about the same hardness level, right? This is kind of getting there. It's like taking out part of it. There's still a little bit there though. And I don't think I want to take down the edge of the cape. I could just carve off the edge of the cape a little bit and that would let me get in there. And it's really not going to harm the model if I do so, so I think I'm going to do that. So there, let's try that. Yep, that lets me do it. And all I had to do was alter the cape a little bit with some knife work, so that's fine. All right, I think yeah, sharpness is important, right? I think that mostly took it out. The nice thing about this, see, in metal, we'd have no choice, right? But in plastic, we do have the choice to like gently recarve part of this, and it's easy. So because of that, we're able to do more with this tool. Yeah, we're getting there. Yeah, I think that's pretty good, actually. The little tiny, whatever little tiny bit is left would be easily filled in by like just a layer of primer. All right. Let's see here. Just make sure I've gotten everything else. Oh, the mold lines. Lackaday. Why did I get the one with all the mold lines and Laura didn't have any? That's what I want to know. It's not fair. All right. Looking in the hair. There's a little tiny mold line here, but it's really not enough to hurt the hair. It's mostly in line with the hair. So that's okay. So I'm just taking off this little bit of mold line on the underside. All right, I think we're clean. I think we're clean. Come on, Elquin. So Werner is the only sculptor I'd ever met who actually, like, doesn't just pull the putty of the face up into a nose, but cuts out a little tiny triangle of putty and makes it into a nose. Just have a little bit of imperfection here on his snoz, so I've been playing with it. Real gentle diamond file pressure. There we go. There. There we are. You can see I've got a little bit of plastic here that's just clinging on. Little thread of plastic. No difficult ones, huh? Okay, well. Obviously you had the superior cast then. Yeah, this is a tough one. Alright, good enough. Alrighty, now we got the arm. Well, now I can keep Julie's sculpting tool right with the other sculpting tools. Now I'll be able to find it. That was very smart of me to put it with my travel tool set. So on the staff here, we have mold lines running all the way around the border. And, okay, let's look at this. So what we've got here is we do have a cape, but it's in 3 pieces. I wanted to address this. So we've got our central part, which I'm going to assume the hood is a part of. Then we've got 2 outside panels. You can paint it all the same color, or you could do alternating colors and do a color here and a different color there. In addition, the whole front is part of the whole robe. So we've got this part buttoned onto this part of the cape and connected, one assumes, on the other side as well. So probably whatever color you use for the back panel, you should also use for the front panel. Then you have a separate color to use for. He looks like he's wearing thigh-high boots, which is just like too cool. Thanks. Only inverter clock. We have long gloves on, and some kind of padded armor type of tunic underneath, and a little bit of legging showing through, but not a lot. Yeah, I feel like this is a tall boot. Then he's got a pouch strapped on the other one. So yeah, so I would treat this as, I would probably choose more of a neutral for the under, a dark or a neutral for the shirt and the bit of the leg that's showing. And then I would choose 2 colors to do the cape. That's what I would do. Yes, this is the 90-day challenge mini. I decided I would paint along with you guys. I let the stream choose what basic color they wanted. They chose purple, Richard, so I'm going to be thinking about what kind of purples I want to use. I kind of want to contrast a dark purple and a light purple. And I kind of want to go muted. So I'm thinking about it. Just little tiny bits of plastic, extra bits of plastic to take off here and there. All right. Back to this real quick. Real quick mold line removal. Pouches, buckles, and thigh-high boots. It's thigh-high boots that I was saying only in Verner. Shadow Raven. I might actually get some painting done today, like personal painting. And yes, I will be streaming tomorrow, just to, on my own channel, around 3:30 USA Central Time. And we will probably, that'll be twitch.tv/paintingbig. And we will likely be working on more on this lady, because I'm getting really close with her. And we need to do the skin tones on the back. We still need to do more hair. We need to do more metal. I don't know what I'll choose whatever I feel like when it comes down to it. We might do skin, because I still want to do a little bit more highlighting. And I need to, if I get done with her, then I can start on my second one. Right? This big lady. Also a Moonlight miniature. That'll be some freehand. I figure out what I want to do for freehand. Maybe griffins. I always thought that the Beast's castle needed griffins. Just gonna scrape this mold line off. But yeah, I'm kind of thinking about going with a muted purple, a dark and a light. Probably use Styx purple for the dark. And then go with actually a lighter, warmer purple for the alternating parts. I think that could be fun. I know muted color schemes aren't as popular as bright colors. A little bit of just resistance here. I probably need to swap out my... When you start seeing a lot of shreds of plastic, it usually means you need to swap out your knife blade. I have extra blades in the other room. Because it means your blade is getting a little too dull to effectively take off mold lines. Alright, so we've got a little bit of a mold line going around the outside here. That's better. But yeah, the files don't work as great on the Bones USA plastic. I find they always leave a little bit of a texture, so I prefer to use the knife. Although if it keeps like creating issues, I'm gonna go and grab a blade, swap it out. We actually have like 15 minutes left. Maybe I will. Or we could just work on the part I've cleaned already and put aside the staff for a second until I can change it out. That's probably better. And I've still got to get my white out and do the little white bits on her cape. So let's do that. So what do you guys think about muted colors? Would you rather have bright colors on him? I was thinking about more muted, just because I'm kind of in a grayed out colors mood today. I'm going to just get some pure white down here. Now when you want to do a stippling pattern for weathering, you want to use, let's see if I've got an appropriate brush over here. I usually will use a synthetic, but I mean you could also use your mixing brush. Anything with a kind of a spiky, splayed out look. I might use mixing brush because I can get smaller than the flat. This is a flat that I usually use for terrain. It's a Reaper flat. Uh-oh. Dropping things as usual. But when I do this, where's a piece of paper? I don't have a really good piece of paper. I have this. So, I'm going to use this. Just like dry brushing, I'm going to like kind of get some of the paint off my brush until I'm getting more like this, and then I'm going to start applying that to the bottom of the cape. So when I first started, I got these big globs, but as I continued, I got finer, and then as my paint gets to the dry brushing level, it's going to be finer and finer until finally it dries in the brush. You don't want it to dry in the brush, but if it's my mixing brush, I don't care a lot. Yeah, I don't do very much muted on stream because I know people like bright colors, but yep. Yeah, you could get the really cheap plastic ones too. I just don't own any of those, so if you're going to do this though, now that I've mixed it, now that I've thinned it, now that I've cleaned it off and there's water in the brush, in order to make it work really well, I'm going to have to actually get a lot of that water out of the brush. You can see it there coming off. There we go. Once my brush is dry again, I can redip it, get most of it off, and then I can get dabs around the bottom like that. And I feel that this just looks better and more in scale than trying to put snowflock on it. And it's going to still give me kind of a random texture. Going to give us a little bit of snow feel. I just want a little bit clinging to the bottom. I'll let it get stronger in some places and weaker in others. You want it to be a little randomized pattern. And then we got that looking like that. So there we go. No, because it depends, Fendrake. If you go too bright with muted colors, they look terrible, they clash. One of my basic rules of color theory that I tell people all the time is never mix really bright and muted colors. They don't work. The exception is bright colors with a neutral color. But if I'm going to use a grayed out purple, it's not going to look good if I mix it with next to a bright purple. This is honestly one of the core rules of color theory for me when I teach it as per miniatures. The core rule, one of the core rules, is never use muted colors with really bright colors ever. It'll keep you out of trouble. Yeah, you'd use a darker blue-gray, but the problem, old one, is that it's hard to portray that in a way that makes it evident what you're doing. Sometimes we have common sense things where we're like, oh, well, it really should be like this. But then when it comes down to it, when you try to do it, it just looks wrong. And especially on 28 millimeter, I think it's hard to do some of those effects. I would maybe consider, if you did it, doing darker and using a little bit of gloss to suggest that it maybe, but even then that won't work because cloth won't necessarily get more shiny. I don't think I would try that effect on 28. Also, since the snow is still snow, I'm choosing to say that this snow is on a cape, which is, especially around the edges where it's going to be pretty much cold. It's not melting right away. This is, I didn't want to do a melty thing. I don't know. The problem is that on 28s, the convention is usually you're highlighting around the edges or you're doing worn cloth around the edges, right, which is lighter. So to make that darker is very counterintuitive, and a lot of people looking at it might not understand what you're doing. So, I don't know. It's problematic for me. I think that it would be more successful if your basing was able to suggest wet. So, like, if we did this base, if I was going to do what you just suggested, instead of doing all this snow, I would have left little concavities in the rock to put water in. I would have suggested that it was a very wet environment. And then, if you do the dark, make sure you do kind of like drips, like make sure you do patches of you know, both, you don't make it too uniform around the bottom, that's what I'm saying. And then if you've got the water on the base and the dark all around the edge of the cape, then I think you could sell it. But you've got to have that fluid somewhere on the base. I think snow isn't enough. Because I would be like, why is the bottom all dark? Why is it dirty if there's, you know, I wouldn't probably get it. You see? Yeah. So you gotta, essentially, if you're gonna sell an environmental effect, you have to have that environmental effect present, I think. Personally, that's how I feel. Because I hate, there's often a temptation to do this kind of stuff, but then without that kind of visual cue, that the viewer just has nowhere to go, like they don't understand what you're trying to do. So always kind of question, okay, how can I make it evident that this is what's happening? Okay, I can put puddles of water around her feet and on the base. That'll make it obvious that it's wet. And then I'd probably look up some examples of like wet fabric, or I'd soak the bottom of a t-shirt, you know, or kind of like get a really wet paper towel and take a t-shirt or something and kind of like dip like the bottom of the t-shirt and like see how the water leaches up into the fabric and what kind of pattern it makes, and I would base it on that. I think with those kind of things, you have to really look at, to make them convincing, you need to look at real references. And then our brains are going to turn on and say, oh, water on the base, and there's that pattern, it must be wet. Right. Yes, exactly. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that actually, mud and dirt is the one area where I have done exactly what you mentioned, is I would use the dark mud on the bottom and then stipple the paler dirt above it and into it, so that it became evident that the fringe was more wet and then the dirt going up was drying. And that, I think mud is a much easier one to do that with, because that, again, you want to paint the base accordingly, but people, I think, are kind of used to that kind of weathering effect a little more than just a wet one, which is very uncommon to see people try, but I think that'll work. All right. And we've just got a little bit of time, so yeah, real world or picture. Yeah, I feel like weathering is one of those things that takes a bit of extra oomph. I'm going to grab my carbon gray and just paint over the little shiny spots there. See the shiny spot? Paint over my shiny super glue spots. So we didn't get any paint on Elquin today, but that's all right. We did. We will have totally finished Caerindra. We can remove her from her plinth. 1 second while I get this carbon gray out so I can do the thing. Yeah, hopefully I'll see some of you guys tomorrow on my stream. Just painting some of this gray, just stippling it over where the super glue is shiny. And that will get rid of our shine. And we'll be good. There we go. Ta-da! We went a long time without having a proper like charcoal gray, and carbon gray is that. Yeah, that's for sure, Shadow Raven, because scale is big on that. That's what makes 28 difficult. Alrighty. Any artists that do realistic stuff are almost always using references. I mean, Kirill uses a ton of historical and other references in his work, and he does a ton of realistic textures. So yes, there we go. Yay, Caerindra! Finished! I'm going to pop her off of the space. Boop. She's got a bit of that darker sticky tack, and it tends to stick. Extra sticky. Oh, so I got like the best doctor advice yesterday ever, guys. Eat more pastry. Well, that's how I interpreted it. But essentially, he wants to be. We've ruled out Crohn's disease. Yay! Yay! So we've ruled out Crohn's disease, but what he wants to do is he's still trying to figure out why I had the fistula problems in the first place years ago. So he wants me to take the celiac test. So in order to take the celiac test, you have to eat gluten every day for a month. So I'm like, you're saying more pastry, and he's like, well. I'm like, aha. Technically, I only need to eat about a slice of bread a day. And so most of the time, that's what I'm going to do. But it means I'm not going to feel guilty if I eat a pastry. Or if I eat some Irish soda bread, because, you know, that holiday is coming up, right? So yeah. The best awful advice. Yes, the best awful advice ever. And a doctor told me, yeah, avocado toast time, right? All the things that I normally don't have because I'm gluten free, right? I get to have for a month. I don't want to overdo it because when I have too many carbs, I don't feel great. So, but this'll be the test. It'll be interesting. The problem with getting a whole loaf seriously is that I feel like I just won't eat it. So I just get little things. I'm more likely to get a pastry or a small loaf of soda bread that I can make David eat with me. And yes. Alrighty, guys. Excellent. So I'll assign the mini, and she'll be done, and we'll pass her off to Ron at ReaperCon. I'm sure he'll be thrilled. Yes, as long as it's gluten. I know. I just think it's great to say it. The doctor actually told me to eat more pastry. Because, best doctor advice ever. That's what I texted David. my mom was like, tell David to run, don't walk to the bakery. I need to sign the bottom of this, then we'll call it. Because I have my white paint out from my train, or from my snow effect, so I'm just going to use that. I'm going to thin it a little bit, though, so that I can actually do my initials with it. But yeah, I just thought it was funny. But I think that's the last of the tests and stuff for me. We got all of the results back, and it looks like I'm a fairly healthy Anne. So yeah, this is just like him trying to figure out why I had the problems to begin with, which I appreciate, actually. We just kind of ruling stuff out. Yeah, we're kind of ruling stuff out at this point. So yeah, the kind of crap that he's ordered is blood panels you don't normally have and stuff like that. So I'm looking okay. Yeah, I know. I want to hit 100. So my goal has always been to live till I'm over 100. So it's good to know that I have a good chance of it, at least as of how we look right now. I just got excellent news about a friend yesterday as well. Her sister was diagnosed with advanced breast cancer. She's been going through chemo, and the disease, they did their follow-up yesterday, and the disease is in remission. So now she only has to have periodic chemo to hopefully keep it there. But considering they were looking at a really bad diagnosis at the beginning, this is so thrilling. I love hearing about this. I love for all I sometimes grouse about our medical system, medical science has come so far, and it's just thrilling when you can get that kind of result. And she's young too. She's under 40, and she has 2 small kids. So the diagnosis was pretty devastating for their family. So now, hopefully, she can keep on going. Ah, my loop. Yeah, so good news in general yesterday. It was a pretty good day on that front. I also started my new paint along, which is the Fire Genasi from Moonlight. Somebody suggested doing her skin tone the same as the Tiefling from Baldur's Gate 3, so that's what we're going to be doing. So it's going to be a dark red skin tone. There we go. Yeah, I love it. I love seeing people beat this stuff. Absolutely. Go humans. Boop. Boop. There we go. Yeah, that's why I do the CrossFit and all the rest of this stuff. I want to be not only living to 100, but being in damn good shape when I'm doing it. So I want to be one of those people like those people who are still skiing competitively when they're 80. I want to be the equivalent of that. Not skiing necessarily, but I want to be in shape. That's my goal. Alrighty. Yes, thanks everybody. Thanks for hanging out. I am done. We are done. The model is done. Shiny, shiny, really cool. Turned out great. Very happy. I might still decide to do icicles, but I have to prep for that. So if I do decide to do that for a fun thing, I'll do it at some point. Good. Good, Twistoma. That's good news. Fingers crossed for your hubby. We can do it. We can do it. All right. Super cool. Up onto the finished platform with you. I'm pulling together quite a collection back there. Ron will get a lot of pretty minis this year. So, okay, next time we are firmly on Elquin next time, and we will start laying down colors. I already have some ideas. I'm going to use some weird stuff, I think. I don't know. I'm just kind of in the mood. Yep, I'll see some of you tomorrow on my stream, and otherwise I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I will see you on Monday. Yeah, I guess I could do the Big Sickle Patreon post. That's a good idea, Richard. We could do that. I could do a little bonus thing on the Patreon, maybe. Alrighty. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Quindy, for herding the cats and being there with your mod bat. And I will see you all later. All right. Have a great one. Bye-bye.